This week's scenario is Incursion from the 2014 Steamroller packet. It does not consist of kill box and consists of 3 flags, one central flag which can be controlled for 1 CP or dominated for 1 CP, and 2 outer flags that can be controlled for 1 CP and dominated for 2 CPs. However, at the end of the second player's first turn, you roll to determine which of the 2 outer flags will disappear, leaving you only 2 flags to score in the scenario.
Greetings, this is Iron Lich W. In preparation for acquiring Goreshade Lord of Ruin, I decided I'd want to throw down an E-Goreshade list as well as a P-Goreshade list for the channel. This week I'll be starting with E-Goreshade, that way I get a little action in with the Kraken, as I love that model tremendously.
Pokey here. I decided today I'd take P-Makeda with the very typical battle group, 2 units of Nihilators for infantry, because her feat likes infantry, a minion unit of beast handlers, and the siege Animantarax, or as I like to call them, Stomples, and an Agonizer.
For deployment, I start by placing the Kraken in the middle of my deployment zone. Then my opponent puts down his huge base model. I want the Kraken in the middle of the deployment zone because I want to be able to have range to as much of the field as possible with his range attacks. Then I proceed to put the Bane Thralls on the left side of the Kraken. There is a forest that is just to the right of the center of the board, and I want to keep my Bane Thralls away from that forest, that way I don't run into terrain issues as I don't have Pathfinder on my list. I also put the Deathripper on the left side next to the Bane Thralls, and then I put the Bane Knights on the right side since they're able to go through the forest without much trouble. I then line up the Blood Witches on the left side just outside of the Deathripper, since they are faster than the rest of the army, they'll be able to run to the center of the board before the rest of the army gets there anyways.
Okay, after pre-deploying the Animantarax towards the top where it'd be a little more open ground, less obstructions for him to run through, I decided to put most of the battle group in the middle to where they could go either direction, or I could try to dominate the center flag. The Nihilators are going to flank on either side. That way when we decide which flag goes away, we'll know which, they have enough speed to be able to get where they need to on the table. So, as you can tell, the red unit is towards the bottom of the screen, the blue unit is towards the top. Molik Karn is very central on the screen, on the field. The Archidon, it's actually a little bit closer to the bottom flag, because with speed 7, it can get almost anywhere it needs to in a hurry. So I felt confident that it was in a good location, especially looking across the table and seeing that there wasn't a whole bunch that could reach out, and I had that one obstruction right there between the flags to use.
For Cryx turn 1, I start off my turn by allocating 1 point of focus to the Kraken as well as to the Deathripper. Then I activate the Kraken and have him run. Since he's huge base model, I don't want the smaller models to get in his way if I activate them first. Then I activate the Scrap Thrall and have him run. Followed by the Deathripper, have him run to get to the right side of the linear obstacle so I get him kind of centered to the field. And then I have the Blood Witches activate and they run after him. The intention is for the Blood Witches to charge and run on the next turn, use their mini feat, try and jam my opponent near the middle of the board, more so on his side if I can. Then I activate the Bane Thralls and have them run, spread out a little bit, get them ready to go ahead and fill the void that the Blood Witches are going to leave when they run out into the middle of the field. I want to try and get my Thralls in a position to where they could hopefully make a few more Thralls. Then I activate Tartarus and have him run to stay near the Thralls. The Bane Knights go ahead and they run to the forest, try and spread out a little bit, as I know my opponent likes to spread out and send in his units in waves if he can. Then have the Necrotech run to be next to the Kraken or as close as possible. And then Goreshade advances, and Goreshade advances and attempts to cast Occultation on the Bane Knights. However, Goreshade is out of range and my Arc Node is on the other side of the field. However, I don't believe my opponent had shooting on that side of the board, so it wasn't a real big issue for me. And then Goreshade puts Phantom Hunter on the Kraken.
Okay, turn 1, like any turn 1, is very simple. It's about getting up, getting some good board placement, and getting some spells out there. So I activate the Animantarax. He then runs forward. I activate Aptimus Marketh. I originally thought I'd be out by putting him right behind Stomples, but I moved him back a little bit, and I cast Defender's Ward on Stomples. I then activate the Blue Annihilators. They take the order to run, because this is all about getting up the board, trying to get to, better placement. And not knowing if my opponent had AoEs, I tried to make him spread out as much as possible, so direct hits wouldn't hurt so much. I then go through asking my opponent the threat range of his Bane Knights, and then the red unit takes the run order, because I want to try to make sure I stay out of their threat range, because nothing's worse than having Bane Knights charge you. So I advance the red unit Annihilators up. Then I take the Archidon, and he just does a standard advance, trying to get close behind that objective, trying to keep him somewhat protected from the Kraken, because the Kraken's coming through that forest, and when he does, it's going to hurt. So I just got to protect myself as much as possible. Then I activate the Brute. He does 2 for Safeguard on Makeda, and then he chooses to do 1 more for charging. That's another trick to get up the field faster, which is nice. Because my hope is to get everything close enough that when my caster can actually use benefit from his Shield Guard ability. So she activates, she puts Savagery on Molik Karn, because who doesn't like an additional 5-inch move? Additional 5 inches to movement. She then advances, but not quite close enough to get into the Brute's range. So I will then drop 2 that I originally was going to put Fate Walker up, but I dropped 2 into the Agonizer, and that allows her to sit on 2. Molik Karn then activates, he advances with his Savagery. He doesn't advance too far, because I don't need him targeted first. Then the Beast Handlers activate, and they advance. And because I couldn't count, they conditioned the Archidon to add a point. Then I take the Agonizer, and Agonizer ends up running, trying to get in better position.
For Cryx turn 2, I spin opponent focus to upkeep Phantom Hunter on the Kraken. Then I go ahead and allocate 3 points of focus to the Kraken. Before I make any activations, I'm just carefully survey the field, see where my opponent has his pieces set up. I'm thinking to myself, if I move the Kraken a little bit, I may have an opportunity to take out some of the support pieces and just ignore all his Annihilators for the first turn. So I continue with my plan, and I activate the Blood Witches first. They go ahead and take the order to run, charge, as well as using their mini feat. So I have range on one of the Annihilators with one of the Blood Witches, so she charges, and the rest of them effectively run, with the Blood Hag being in base to base with the middle flag. Because of the scenario, the flag on the far side of the field went away, so we're fighting over the middle flag and the flag closest to the camera. So after I get done making all my maneuvers, I began attacking with the 2 witches that were able to charge the 1 Annihilator. For this particular attack, I'm using the Blood Razor the ability to do Death Strike. So I missed with the first attack, however the second, which she does hit, and she does kill the Annihilator with the Blood Hag preventing him from getting tough. And then the second Annihilator takes a hit equal to the strength of the first one. So they're able to kill 2 Annihilators with that first maneuver. Then I proceed to activate the Scrap Dawn and have him run in the way just to be more of a nuisance to my opponent. Then I activate the Bane Thralls, and they take the order to run, and I just try and spread them out in the area where the Blood Witches used to be. I want to try and get some good charges with them on the next turn, as well as provide some screening for the Kraken, as I know what's inevitably going to happen is Molik Karn is going to try and come in and destroy the Kraken. I'm also careful to leave a space for the Kraken to move into, so he'll be able to get range to some of the support pieces near the back of my opponent's lines. Then I activate the Kraken and proceed to move him up about, hit his 5 inches so he can still fire. So the first piece I try and go after is my opponent's Agonizer. I want to try and kill that with my Filleer since he's a little closer than Marketh. So I get 3 shots with the Filleer cannon, and I essentially have to use all 3 to get rid of the baby Titan. So the first shot hits and then does 1 point of damage. The second shot misses Snake Eyes, and the third shot it hits, and I boost damage on it. I do enough damage to the Agonizer to kill him, which is a plus for me because he'll stop me from allocating focus if he gets closer. Then I use the Hellblaster to target Marketh. I boost a hit. I hit Marketh, and since it's 4-inch AoE, I do hit 4 of the Annihilators of the blue unit near him. So I kill Marketh, and then I end up killing 2 of the blue Annihilators from blast damage. At this point, things are going pretty much how I want them to. I'm getting rid of models that have been a pain in my army side in previous games. So with the Agonizer and Marketh out, I'm trying to take away some of my opponent's efficiency. Then the Deathripper advances, as I have no use for him at the moment. And then Tartarus advances just to make sure he stays within range, hopefully going to curse something on the very next turn. Then I activate Goreshade and have him advance. And then the Bane Knights advance as well, or the Bane Knights run. Try and set up a few of them so they activate Vengeance on the next turn. And then keep the rest kind of near the back so their Vengeance gets them in range of something. And then I have the Necrotech run.
Okay, his last turn was pretty brutal. Taking out Aptimus Marketh and the Agonizer in one go was rough. And then having the Blood Witches come in and pretty much lock my infantry down made it even worse. My only magical weapons in the entire army are now just Makeda. So I pretty much have to figure out how to weather their mini feat and try to stop those Banes from coming at me. Right now I'm trying to figure out how we're treating the terrain right there. And I end up casting Carnage. And I also have kept Defender's Ward and Savagery for this turn. So my caster, she activates. She just does a standard advance into the first Blood Witch, swings, kills, sidestep, which is a nice feature for P-Makeda, swings, kills, another sidestep is coming, but my opponent didn't realize that sidestep ignored free strikes. So now we're trying to get her to balance up on that little ledge. Doesn't quite balance, so I'm going to get a proxy base to take her spot there to mark where she's standing. It's always good to have a little proxy base so you can have a little mark to where the front is and people will know where your model is actually standing when the terrain isn't going to be really helpful to you. She also then pops her feet. which for P-Makeda means that any friendly models that die in her command range or control area that are not removed from play will come back next turn in formation in her control area. So I now activate the red Unit of Nihilators. They take the charge order, and the first one charges the Bane Thrall. Now I'm trying to see who might be able to charge who, and he's going to, I can measure my complete threat range, which was 11 inches, and then move up 9, because they're speed 6. Same thing, measure my complete, then go back to the 9. Now it's a matter of trying to defend my caster, and trying to make sure that he doesn't get too far up the board on me, and advancing stuff up, and still making sure that I have at least a model or two that's still in formation at the end. So I end up rolling out my attacks. Fails is tough. I'm able to roll again, killing him. Thank goodness the Nihilators have Berserk, because that's really helpful. It doesn't only work off of living, it works off everybody. So now I do my against the Bane Knights, who I know are going to have Vengeance, and it's going to really suck once they go. And the one guy's not in front, but the other guy is, so I got to roll myself. And I failed to kill him. Now the next guy rolls, kills off the Bane, and I got to swing on my own guy, and I failed to kill him as well. Lucky dice rolls for me. Now the other Bane Knight that's right there in the front, I'm able to kill him. Now I get to roll on the Explodey Thrall guy. I hit, I kill, but nobody's close enough to take the blast damage except for the one guy. And he toughs. Hooray for tough. But he's knocked down, so it's kind of a downer. And hopefully that keeps me in pretty good position to hopefully keep him at bay from charging my caster, because the last thing I need now is a whole unit of Bane Knights coming charging in and just whacking away at my caster. So I activate the Beast Handlers. They come forward and they give out Enrage like candy, because that is what they do. Hooray! And of course, all beasts are in range to receive it. So what Enrage does, Enrage ends up, my beasts get +2 strength, and they can charge for free, which for Skorne is really helpful. So I'm going to activate the Brute. The Brute's now going to charge the Bane Knight. Don't quite get the angle or the distance to get to where I can get within ½ inch. So this is just all my halberd swinging, and I'm able to kill the first model, buying a secondary attack. I hit, and I kill him. And I'm trying to see if the other guy's in, but I don't believe so, because I didn't buy another attack. So now the Archidon goes. He does his Animus of Lightning Strike. He then moves forward. Well, he charges. The one Bane hits, but he toughs. So I buy an attack. Auto hit, and he toughs again. I buy an attack, and he fails the tough. So now I get to figure out where am I going to Lightning Strike to. Originally, I was going to Lightning Strike in front of Makeda to keep her safe, but I had a complete and utter brain fart and moved him behind the pillar, thinking maybe he could be used for a transfer target instead. But I only had one transfer, so I'm not quite sure as to how that would have helped me too much. Now I'm trying to figure out for Molik Karn where he is going to go, because I've cleared a lane for him to charge the Kraken. But before I do that, I activate the blue unit of Nihilators. I move the one guy who is free, not in melee range anybody. I move him up and around to engage the 2 Bane Thralls, and then everybody else just kind of advances and tries to lock in the Blood Witches. Can't attack on this turn, but I can definitely pretend like I'm going to do something next turn, I guess. And the one Annihilator that was free, he goes and swings, kills off both of those Bane Thralls, which kind of opens at that side, and then Stomples activates, and he charges the Arc Node with his tail attack first. Checking to make sure that Stomples is within the Carnage range. So he ends up hitting and doing quite a bit of damage to the Arc Node. He then takes a spear shot at the one Bane Thrall, misses, then he takes the other spear shot at the Arc Node again, but misses. He then takes his shots because he has a weapons platform, so he can do both. So he shoots again, and now I'm just trying to wipe out Bane Thralls. I was aiming for the officer because he just needs to die. Not the officer, but the standard bearer. He needs to die, but of course, he just keeps on taking up, and I can't seem to hit the guy to kill him. So that takes care of him. Now Molik Karn activates. Once again, another proxy base. I'm trying to get it to where I can advance up, not incurring a free strike from the Blood Witch, measuring my complete my melee range. So, talking to my opponent, tell him that my intent is to move between the 2. We now use a laser. We then see that I can make that move, and I'm going to miss both models. Well, my model for the charge, and then his model for the free strike, and that's about the distance I could actually charge. I placed the base just a little bit short of, but it worked out because I was able to move forward, and we just kept the base where it was because it was too hard to get Molik Karn up underneath the tusks. So he ends up hitting, doing some damage. I then sidestep because Molik Karn has it. I hit, do some more damage. Then I sidestep again because of 2 initial attacks. I then go to buy an attack because why not? He's up there. Might as well do some work. He hits, does some more damage. Pretty much, I'm gonna just keep on buying attacks on the Kraken. Because if I can't drop the Kraken is probably going to drop Molik Karn. And he is my only hope for taking out the Kraken at this point in time. Kraken's a lot of armor, a lot of damage boxes. It's going to be really tough to take him out. So thankfully, Molik Karn can do 5 Fury because of his affinity for Makeda. Now I put him back in play. Don't know why I have Savagery still up, because I just do.
Cryx turn 3. My opponent killed more Bane Knights than I thought he was going to be able to. However, I move up the remaining ones and try and get them in a position to where they can charge Makeda. I'm looking at how my opponent has his field set up, and I see that he's left Makeda open, so I have a chance to get something in there. I also have half a Kraken, which is half more than I expected to have, so I am happy about that, and I'm still thinking I'm still in this fight. And I also have Molik Karn right in front of me. So after I do all my vengeance attacks with the Bane Knights, I kill a couple more Annihilators. However, this is under Makeda's feet turn, so if I don't kill the whole unit, they're going to come back anyways. I allocate 3 focus to the Kraken, I upkeep Phantom Hunter, and allocate 3 points of focus to Kraken. So the Necrotech is going to be the first model that I activate this turn, as I know I need to get Kraken's right arm moving again. However, as naturally, when I need the Necrotech to fix something, he misses. So instead of killing Molik Karn, I decided to go a new path to try and just assassinate Makeda. So I pretty much restructure my entire turn, as I did want to try and get rid of Molik Karn and instead just go another round. So then I activate the Kraken. He gets 3 shots on his Flayer Cannon again, and I just attempt to shoot Makeda standing still. So the Kraken, he'll be Rat 7, and he hits Makeda, and he does 4 points of damage with the first Flayer shot. He misses, he hits Makeda again, does 4 more points of damage with a Flayer shot, and I'm boosting the damage on these rolls. Then his final Flayer shot misses with Snake Eyes. Then I boost the Hell Blaster on Makeda. I hit her, I do 6 points of damage, which forces my opponent to use his only transfer. So now Makeda has no more transfers, and is sitting on 8 boxes. I proceed to activate the Blood Witches next, because I intend to use my Goreshade's Feet this turn, and after the Blood Witches attack, I'll sacrifice them and bring back a few more Bane Knights. So once the Blood Witches activate, I go ahead and I just make attacks to get rid of a few more Nihilators. I have to be very careful, as since this is in my opponent's feet turn, I have to use the Blood Mist ability on their Blood Razors, which when boxed, the Nihilators will be removed from play. I'd like to do Death Strike and try and get a few more, but I don't want the Nihilators to come back. So I end up killing 3 Nihilators this way. Then I activate the Bane Thralls, and I feel that this is when things just go south. It's like, alright, the game's kind of going the way I want it to, not every game's going to be perfect, and then I just fall off a cliff. Due to the position of a couple of my opponents surviving Nihilators, I can't clear out the Bane Thralls from where they are. So I essentially have to charge units that I don't want to charge, further causing me to do movement errors and just not place anything where I want it to be or where I need it to be. And then I do get my Bane Thrall standard on Molik Karn. And I forget to move a couple Bane Thralls out of the way of the Bane Knights, who would have a better angle to charge Makeda. So the Bane Thrall Officer, he does hit Molik Karn with both his attacks, and he does a significant number of damage to him. However, he fails to take out any system. So we have a fully functioning Molik Karn still. But he's got like half his life. Then as I'm trying to figure out just how to salvage what's going next, because I know if I don't finish Molik Karn off, then he's going to rip through what's left of the Kraken, as well as anything else, since he's going to be Fury 5 with Makeda. So as I'm trying to guesstimate the distances at this point, I am trying to get Tartarus, who is a little too far to the left, close enough to where he can curse Makeda to help the Bane Knights hit her. So I try and use my Deathripper, advance him in a manner such that I can have Tartarus charge my Deathripper and have him get the extra distance to be closer to Makeda. That way he can curse her. So once the Deathripper advances, I go ahead and activate Tartarus and have him charge the Deathripper. I make sure that I have a good charge angle as far to the right as I can, and I'm not clipping anything, and then I move him and attempt to curse Makeda. So after doing some clever measuring with my opponent, we determined that Tartarus is just out of range. And I knew from there that my heart was going to be broken, because now the Bane Knights would need 9s to hit Makeda. So of course Tartarus hits the Deathripper as his charge target and just blows it to smithereens. But at this point, I wasn't going to use him anyways. And then I'm forced to just go with the Bane Knights and hope my dice spike and give me one hit, because I just need one Bane Knight to hit Makeda. She's got no more transfers. I activate the Bane Knights, and then I move one out of the way because he didn't have a charge target, but he didn't have a charge lane, but he was blocking everyone else. And I charge in 2 more Bane Knights that were behind him. And then there was a 3rd Bane Knight that I felt had the charge distance, but first let me finish the movement of the first 2. And we just want to make sure that we get the charges correct, so it does take us a little more time to make sure that we have good line. And then it comes back to that one final Bane Knight, the 3rd one, who I thought had distance initially, but because I moved him before checking with my opponent, counted it as a miss, because there's no way to verify where he truly was. And in a tournament setting, if my opponent can't verify where he was, then it's considered a failed charge. So I get 2 Bane Knights, and I'm hoping for 9s, and I get 7 and an 8. So close. We did roll it out as if for the 3rd Bane Knight to see if he would have hit, and he would have hit her, but he failed his charge. And at this point, I'm thinking nowhere near straight. So I move up Goreshade to try and finish off Molik Karn, and I didn't really do a great job of measuring because I moved Goreshade his full 6 inches, and I'm still outside reach range for the Molik Karn. So now I just offered up my caster on a silver platter.
Okay, that was a very scary turn. There was a lot of death and destruction on my part. Now I get to reave my fury back. But before I read the fury back, I have to place the models that were destroyed but not removed from play within 3 inches and in command range. So now it's a matter of moving models. Well, not moving models, but placing them where they need to be placed. The feat token goes away. I don't upkeep either one of the 2 spells because I'm already locked in combat. I now have to take threshold checks. I pass with the Brute. I then also miraculously pass with the Archidon. So I'm still sitting with at least 3 Fury on the table, which not sure exactly how I'm going to be able to get rid of that. Molik Karn is hanging on by a thread. I activate my caster. She puts up Carnage. She advances forward. She goes to swing on the Banes that were blocking her in. She hits the first one. Ends up taking the 2 shots on the first one, sidestepping. Able to kill off the second one. But because the first one took, I failed to kill it, kind of hurt me. Now the Nihilators are going to activate. The Nihilators are going to advance over the wall. They're going to try to kill themselves some blood witches. Try to get some retribution for the pain and suffering that they suffered. But first I got to try to free up Stomples. I'm not sure exactly why Stomples was being left alone this game. Normally he's the first to fall. But that's okay. So now it's the blue Nihilators. They're doing their part to kill off what they can kill. And my opponent just made a command check with them. And I felt it was a pretty, with Carnage, it's a pretty good turn where you can wipe out that much stuff once you've survived it the first time. I then activate Stomples. He's going to charge. He's going to charge one of the Bane Thralls. I'm being told that I will take a free strike. I'm like, I don't care. If he dies, he dies. If not, well, then it's, good. You know, because he had taken 0 damage so far, so that gives him 1 rage token for taking damage. He then advances, he swings on his intended target with his spear, ends up killing him with the spear. I then use his tail attack on the caster, which I use the rage token to boost the damage. And then I use my other spear to swing, but on the other Bane Thrall, I then roll to see how many times I can fire my heavy Reaver cannon, and I just go to unload into his caster, and because I'm needing a 10, something ridiculously high, I don't even bother with. I just keep on rolling against him, hoping I can hit him, but I don't. Because of how close everything is, I really need some some good luck here with distances, because I'm going to be activating the Beast Handlers. The Beast Handlers have to get up there to touch Molik Karn. They have to get within distance of Molik Karn, because I need them to reach him for different benefits. So now the Nihilators activate. They go to swing on the Banes. And end up killing off my own guy. And the other guy goes and swings. He kills him, and then the Berserk swing doesn't kill him. Next guy, he swings. He's able to kill him. Berserk swing ends up missing. I now activate the Beast Handlers. They then advance up as far as they can. Oop, knocking over my own model. Conditioning the Archidon. Barely within the 3. My opponent agrees. I am within 3 of my of him, so he ends up being enraged. He then charges the Kraken, which would give him the distance he needs to be able to reach his caster. I swing my initial attack on the Kraken, and then I start just buying swings on his caster, because it's all or nothing this round. Don't ask me why I'm rolling my damage die. So I end up hitting, and I scored just enough to kill him.